Hello, Formula One fans, and welcome once again to Fans Forum, the show where we look to put you in pole position, driving the conversation as every Formula One fan out there had their eyes on Monza this race weekend as the Italian Grand Prix was taking place. And we got given another masterclass from Max Verstappen, didn't we? He's not following the script for this season with McLaren dominating. Max showed us exactly what he's made of. But there was also plenty of drama between the McLaren boys. They managed to kind of create it themselves. And of course, the Tifosi were out in force representing and supporting the Scuderia, who kind of turned up across the race weekend. And at the very least, they got their fan base excited at particular points. But we're going to get into all that and more, guys. And we want your opinions on all the action across race weekend. So make sure you get into the chat box. It's good to see some of the ever present, such as Ewan, in there. So thank you, Ewan. Thank you once again for joining us. And we have got a returnee in the shape of my VIP guest here this evening. We spoke to her in pre-season, so before any of the action happened. 6 months later, we've had 16 Grand Prix, and we can't wait to hear all about her experience as she was live at the Temple of Speed, soaking it all up. It is Ola Zokowska, who joins us live from Europe this time around. Ola, thank you so much for joining us. How are you?
Thank you so much for having me again, James. It's honestly been such a great experience. And I'm still so full of emotions after the whole 3 days of just so much energy, so much passion, really hot weather, and so many Tifosis in the crowd.
Yeah.
All red. I can see red in my eyes now.
Yeah, and I guess now it's kind of the bit where you almost just let it out and try and recalibrate yourself to the real world, because it must have been an absolute whirlwind, Ola. We want to know all about it. Tell us every detail you've got from Monza. What was the atmosphere like? Myself, I was following your socials, of course, seeing all the action, which was a lot of, Ferrari. But what was going on trackside amongst the fans?
Yeah, it was all Ferrari, honestly. For me, I'm still so overwhelmed with the emotions, with the whole experience. It was truly a dream come true to be at Ferrari's home race and surrounded by Tifosi, all dressed in red, so passionate, so full of energy. It's something that you'll never forget. Once you're in Italy, once you hear that Italian anthem play at the intro and everyone is singing. And you could see that people were very eager to see Ferrari race. They were very eager to scream, to support. I've never seen so many claps, so many cheers during the whole race that at Monza. And honestly, that was a dream come true. If you're a Ferrari fan, that is your goal, to be at Monza at least once in your life, to see that emotions live.
And just give us an idea, what was it like being there? Because I could see, like you said, seas of people everywhere. So navigating yourself around the circuit, finding a good spot to watch the race, how was that?
That was actually really, really difficult. As you've mentioned, there's so many people attending the race, but I'm pretty sure this race was organized very well by the Italian authorities and the whole racetrack, because there was a lot of viewing spots, especially down the DRS line and then down the straights. We could very much like climb the structures and see everything from the perspective of the grass. There were a lot of screens, and if you wanted to see the action, you could see it if you wanted to. But the amount of people, I think the circuit can fit in around 200,000 people. And I think it was sold out this year. And we could clearly see that while queuing for the toilets, queuing for the trains, queuing for everything. It was just red lines everywhere.
Yeah, we know that F1 is a big crowd draw nowadays, don't we? How did you find following the race as well? Because I've always found when you're there live, it's a bit more difficult to follow than when you're sitting on your armchair at home. How did you overcome that? As you said, were you near a screen? Did you have, I don't know, F1 radio in your ear, etc.? What did you do?
It's a bit of everything actually, because we tried to position ourselves with our friends. It was quite a big group. If I was only on my own, I think that would be so much easier. But we were quite a big of a group, 7 people. So we were trying to always position ourselves in front of the big screens and
Mm.
in front of the speakers, which there are a lot of them over there, especially next to steward stations. But we also had to use our phones a lot to follow the live stream. We
Mm.
also had those radios in our ears just to clearly hear, because the when it was playing live, it was both in English and Italian. So it was switching from one to the other one.
Okay.
So once we understood the English, we didn't understand the Italian, which was quite a funny experience, to be fair.
You are making the point, the shortest Grand Prix in history, only 1 hour, 13 minutes and 26 seconds. Did that fly by in the stands as well? Did it feel that quick?
Absolutely not. It was such a long race for us. We were literally standing there praying for Ferrari to do something,
Mm.
to the miracle to happen. Like last year it happened, but it was the tension was there. Like slowly by the end of the race, you could hear that people's energies went really, really down. At
Right.
first, it was really, really emotional. Then it went really, really down. So it was actually a very long, almost hour and 13 minutes, was it?
Yeah.
For us we waited until the last second. We had hope.
Mm. So tell us a little bit about some of your highlights away from the race circuit that happened. As I said, I was following your content. Some great stuff with, was it the Papi Ferrari?
The Papi Ferrari,
Yeah.
yes.
For people that didn't see it, tell us about them.
We visited we were very strategic about planning our days. So we dedicated Friday, which was the practice day, to get to explore the track, to get to explore the fan zones, which comparing to Australia, I believe was a bit less interesting on the side of all the activities that you could do on a track. But Albert Park is a much bigger venue and you can fit in more people there and more attractions for the fans. But we did see the fan zone, and it was great. It was great to to see so many people dressed so differently. We saw a lot of flags with the dogs, with Lewis's dog and Leclerc's dog. We saw Papi Ferrari. I saw them on my first day. I saw them and it was just spectacular. They looked fantastic. They were like superstars, celebrities. Everyone
just
was
in case people don't know, explain how they go about what they're actually wearing, because they are brilliant.
Yes. So they are dressed as a pope, wearing the huge Pope hat with the Ferrari logo on top, and they're all wearing white robes with like those special Pope, I'm not sure what it's called, ornaments. And it's all
for
Ferrari.
Divine intervention, right? So that Ferrari can win.
The Ferrari can win. They say that Italy has two religions. It's the Catholic Church and the Ferrari. So it's merging together.
Brilliant stuff. So I'll tell you what, let's now, we've done almost 10 minutes or so, but let's talk about what actually happened on circuit. And in fact, when we start talking about the Scuderia first and foremost, we've got to go to before any actions even happened across race weekend, right? We've got to go back to the previous race in the Netherlands and this 5-place grid penalty that Lewis Hamilton got. How did you feel about that as a Ferrari fan when that was announced? I mean, myself, I was like, it feels like someone's trying to sabotage Lewis's big unveiling in Italy. I know he was previously there, Emilia-Romagna, but this is the big one at Monza. And it feels like someone's done all they can to try and ruin it before it's even started.
I'm not going to lie, I was devastated. You can clearly see by the change of my mood. I was so excited talking about being there, but the actual race and the actual penalty that was announced last week was just, I don't even have words. We knew it was going to be hard. We had hope, but it was still really harsh to see Lewis being hit with the penalty. And then he's done a great job in Monza to get back to the positions, 4 positions up from the 10th place. That's why we were hoping that the qualifying would go so well, so we wouldn't have to make up for so many spots.
How was the feeling after FP1? Because, of course, FP1, Lewis topped the times and Charles Leclerc was in P2. Did
Yes.
you, as Ferrari fans, dare to dream? What were the kind of conversations that were being had in the stands?
So basically, the first day was like the best day we've had as Ferrari fans because we were filled with hope. I did this funny video with Papi Ferrari, and they said they manifested the 1-2, which happened before the first practice. So we were all like in ecstatic emotions that, oh my God, we actually do have chances. Maybe we're gonna have some very good luck, some higher power reaching over us, and we're gonna see some action on the racetrack, and hopefully Ferrari will score. But the energy levels went slowly down when we saw the qualifying. It's about, there's a puzzling performance between Ferrari's strategies on the practice sessions and then qualifying. There's a huge difference because we've had a couple of instances when we did super well in the trainings, but then we did not perform in actually in the race and the qualifying. So it is quite concerning what is happening there behind the scenes, and why is that managed in such a way.
Yeah, I watched the broadcast here in the UK last week, and Fred Vasseur was saying if we could run the cars just a little bit closer to the ground, that we'd really be able to unlock some performance. And it was one of the experts, I can't remember, it was Martin Brundle, but he said, yeah, but if every car could run a bit closer to the ground, they'd all be going quicker. It kind of shows that maybe this design that they've got of this particular car, they don't quite have an understanding of it, because that's, like you said, the point is that in the free practice sessions, it seems to go well. Then they can make the tiniest little change. And I think Lewis said this previously, didn't he? That you make the tiniest change and it just goes where you don't expect it, this car.
Exactly. I think it was a huge mistake to develop a whole new concept for this year instead of building on top of the car that we had last year.
Okay.
And I think we're seeing the effects this year of this decision. It's been, I think, one of the worst periods for Ferrari, 16 races with no wins at all, which is quite concerning and very disappointing for us, the fans.
Yeah, and a very unwanted record for Lewis Hamilton as well. It's been the worst start to a Ferrari career since the 1990s.
Exactly.
What have you made of Lewis's mindset since he's come back from the summer break? Because there were some big statements before the summer break about he wasn't going to accept leaving Ferrari without a world championship. Then there was this moment where he just said, I'm absolutely useless, they should get another driver. Where do you think Lewis is at mentally now?
I think it's really difficult to say because he's very much a human, and he's probably going through a lot of pressure right now, his own pressure, but also the pressure from the fans and Tifosi, which I think were very kind towards Lewis. I've asked around during the track. I ran a couple of more interviews other than the Papi Ferrari, and I asked them, who are you supporting? And the answer was always Ferrari. It's not about the driver. It's about Ferrari. Some of them were skewed more towards Leclerc, but overall, I think Lewis has great support behind his back. But I think it's a very difficult situation for him because he really wants that championship. He doesn't want to leave Formula One without leaving his legacy and the 8th title that he does, in some people's opinion, he does have, but he just wants to have it officially. And it's, I think he's struggling, and I think his hope will be back soon. I'm hoping that next year the design will be so good that he's going to feel the power. But I think after the break, he's just slowly seeing what it's like. Ferrari's missing the pace. Mercedes and Ferrari were having the same level of pace. Then we've got Verstappen, who's just done something incredible during this race. We're back to, almost felt like we're back to Max's dominance years. And then we've got Mclaren, who's doing really, really well. So I think it's just the Ferrari curse this year.
There was a little peak of hope during qualifying, though, wasn't there? Charles Leclerc at one point went fastest, and again, did the whole atmosphere go, oh.
Yes. It's like the circle, the vicious circle. We're like, we're so back. Oh no, we're so back.
Yeah, it must be difficult as a Tifosi, but like you said, all eyes on 2026, and hopefully they've got something in the locker that's going to turn those teams' fortunes around. We've just got
Hopefully.
Pete that's joined us as well in the chat box, just saying that he enjoyed the race. Yep, Pete, it was really short. Ewan's made the point on that earlier as well. Max Verstappen was obviously absolutely flying. Before we move it forwards, Ola, I just want to talk a little bit about the other side of the garage for Ferrari, Charles Leclerc. And Charles almost acts as a good benchmark for maybe us cutting some slack to Lewis, because Charles is what? I mean, his best performances this year, he's got a few P3s, whereas he won 3 races last year, didn't he? So that gives us an idea of where the team is at holistically. But what have you made of Charles Leclerc this year? And particularly because he hasn't got the spotlight on him as much, has he?
No, and I think it's because he's become like a Ferrari child and he's a staple representative of
Mm,
Ferrari, and we know he's going to be there. And he just has to keep performing. He mentioned in one of the interviews a snowball effect. It's like we start strong and then we experience this struggles across the race weekends,
mm.
and we try to come back. And I think Leclerc is as you've said, he's a very good reference to how Ferrari's doing overall. And I think yeah, we just gotta have hope that he's got those lucky shots, I guess.
I think as well that the facts, like I don't know if you've come across this, but on the team radio that they had on the UK broadcast, Charles was questioning why he was pitted early. And I know that possibly a lot of drivers are in communication back and forth, and maybe the media are slightly spinning this narrative. But with the driver questioning the team's decision, it gives us again this idea or this feeling of what's going on behind the scenes at Ferrari, doesn't it?
Yes, I think it's a very difficult year for Ferrari because we've got such a legend as Lewis Hamilton, and they have to, maybe they're trying to set some standards because we know that the German standards are very, very strict. And Lewis has been in a team that's been purely based on statistics and improving the car. And he's had a lot of influence on building the Mercedes car and improving it. We saw those very famous shots of him sitting after the race with the race engineers going through all the data. And I'm not sure if that's the case in the Ferrari garage.
Do you think it's more led by emotion, perhaps, then at Ferrari than statistics?
Yes, a lot of higher power energy,
Mm,
a lot of hope,
yeah.
a lot of, yes, a lot of emotions involved. And I'm pretty sure they're struggling how to use Lewis's potential.
Mm. What do you make of the point that Ewan's made here on the screen, just saying that if Lewis had joined Ferrari 2 years earlier, so if we think about the car that would have been at his disposal, perhaps particularly that one that was battling, maybe if we go 3 years ago, the one that was going toe to toe with Max initially at the beginning of the season, I think that was that in 2022, possibly, I think. And you know, Charles Leclerc threatened to put up a championship challenge. What do you
Mhm.
think Lewis Hamilton would have done in that car?
I still think it would take a lot of time for him to get used to the Ferrari car because it's built in such a different way than the Mercedes car. Um, but I think yes, he definitely could have had more chances
Mm,
against because McLaren was not doing. They were just starting to do very well,
yeah.
and so it was either Ferrari or Red Bull. It was much easier to manage. Now we've got more competitors on the grid. Like we can see by the championship standings, we've got McLaren 1, Ferrari 2, and then we've got Mercedes, and Red Bull is just fourth, which is really interesting to see. That the dynamics is changing. I mean, from a fan perspective, it's really fun to watch because we've been so fed up with Max's dominance over these 2 seasons. So it's really nice to see. But coming back to the original point, I think yes, Lewis could have probably done really well with that car.
Yeah, you mentioned that we got fed up with Max's dominance, and that was very much, I think a lot of F1 fans would echo that. But he seems to be the only man, doesn't he, this season, flying the flag against the power of papaya. Let's talk a little bit about Max Verstappen's performance across this race weekend. It was dominant, wasn't it? And he was eking out that lead for the duration. And I've put him here in my notes just saying he's kind of had to eat his own words, because a couple of races ago, he wasn't echoing that this was possible, was he?
Yes, but it's Max. I still believe, as I told you the last time we spoke 6 months ago, I still believe he's the most talented driver on the grid at the moment. The most talent, the most technique. And I think he actually had a very weak start of the race at Monza. But he managed to keep his position. Lando at one point went side by side with him, but ultimately Max dominance returned during the race. Like the gap, I think at one point I saw the gap was like 33 seconds between Leclerc and Max.
Yeah.
And I was devastated at that point, but I was also in such admiration of, wow, he's just doing incredible. He's flying.
Yeah,
And the fastest lap in history. Sorry.
Did you expect Max to come back after? Because, like you said, turn one, so he was squeezed off the track but maintained, and then had to give the place to Lando. Was there any part of you that at that point thought Lando would fly off? It's been a real surprise, hasn't it, this race weekend, the performance of that Red Bull car? Because, again, I don't know about down under in Australia, but the narrative here in the UK is that that's been a pretty poor car all season.
Yes, it has. And I'm not sure what happened there behind the scenes, what they have changed, or was it just Max's? Because even in the interviews, he didn't seem like he was very eager to win at Monza. He was more commenting on like the regular stuff. We couldn't feel like he's really angry that he really wants this win right now. So I believe Red Bull, there's something going on behind the scenes. Like we've seen the drama with
Christian Horner.
What is it? Christian Horner, yes. We see Max speaking to Toto very often. We see a lot of memes. We see a lot of photos. So we have no idea what's going on in there. I'm sure that Max will remain at Red Bull for at least the next 2 years. But it's pretty sad to see the downfall. Maybe it's Adrian Newey. Maybe it's the lack of such passion and energy to keep working on the car, knowing that you're going to another team next year. We know he's a genius and he builds cars so well, but it's just my speculations. I'm not sure. Max is just Max. He is amazing. When he has his shot, he shoots his shot, and we saw this in Monza. Even though I absolutely hate the situation that happened and that he won, I was kind of rooting for him, as the rest of Tifosi, singing the Max anthem underneath the podium, which was crazy to see.
Yeah. So you mentioned there that Max's short-term future is at Red Bull, but where could you see him being tempted to go? Would you ever imagine him wearing red?
No.
Why?
Absolutely not.
Because?
I'm just picturing Max and his personality wearing red, and his attitude and his the way of being. He's being very straightforward, and we know that Ferrari likes to say things in a very complicated way. I don't think he would be a great fit to the team. I don't think he would be even interested in driving a Ferrari car, and as seeing the performance of the car so far. I think I would definitely more see him in the McLaren, but we know McLaren now has their 2 babies and golden babies. Actually, maybe 1 baby after watching the race.
Okay, hang on. We'll get into that then. We'll get into who you think the golden baby is at McLaren. But yeah, so Max Verstappen, you can't see him ever putting on the scarlet red of Ferrari. Very interesting.
No, I don't see that vision in my. I can't see it. I was struggling to see Lewis in red.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see, the short-term future, even for the rest of this season. As I mentioned, that Max Verstappen said they'll struggle to win a race for the rest of this season. Back in Hungary, he's just delivered one, and there are 8 more races to go. Of course, just real quick, the other side of the Red Bull garage, Yuki Tsunoda, a very difficult race for him. He had that collision with Liam Lawson, which then gave him some damage and meant that he was going slowly. Managed to finish outside of the points. What do you think is the future for that second seat at Red Bull alongside Max Verstappen? What do you see, or who do you see being in it?
Well, first of all, I'm very sorry for Yuki, and I think putting him in a Red Bull car, yes, it was a great prestige and privilege to be put in a Red Bull car for Japan Grand Prix. But I don't think he was ready. I think he would have done much better in an AlphaTauri car at that particular race in Osaka than in a Red Bull car. We know how Red Bull cars are built. They're built with the putting more effort on the front of the car, which is as I think it was Albon who's mentioned that you make
in the interview,
one tweak with the steering wheel and the car just goes off. So I think Yuki is really, not only his car was much slower this race because of the crash, but also he's much more scared to take more risks with the car. He's just driving safely because the car is so sensitive to any movement. And I think it's really difficult because he's been in Formula One for so long, and he's trying to make his break. But I want to be hopeful, and I want to say that we saw Hulkenberg recently on a podium after so many races. I think there's future for Yuki, but I don't think they're going to keep him in a Red Bull car.
Yeah, interesting. Again, I don't know what you guys get down under, but here in the UK, our broadcast, one of the presenters, Ted Kravitz, he asked Lauren McKees 3 times whether Yuki had a spot in the Red Bull family, and McKees didn't confirm anything. One of the former world champion, Jacques Villeneuve, he said that Yuki just isn't good enough, and they know that at Red Bull, and they're just biding their time. But you think there could still be a future for Yuki Tsunoda in Formula One beyond this season?
I think yes, but not for long.
Okay.
And I think definitely there's going to be some movement, maybe by the end of this season with the Red Bull seat. A lot of changes. It feels like a lot of changes are coming. We have been through the silly season already, but I think it's coming very soon. We're going to see some more changes. I don't know. I just have that feeling. I've been following all the interviews, and there's something going on behind the scenes.
So Tony Blair, I don't believe it's the former British Prime Minister, but he's saying he doesn't think it was a good idea for Lewis to go to Ferrari. Tony, hindsight is a beautiful thing, my man. We can all say that now, but at the time, and I remember we go back 6 months talking to you, Ola, it now feels like there's a realism to your expectation, whereas then I think everyone was going, oh, Lewis in red, it's a dream come true, it's meant to be, he'll deliver that 8th title and we can all push forwards. But as I said, hindsight is a beautiful thing. We're going to push it forward though, Ola, just to talk a little bit about the papaya now, McLaren and their race weekend. Now, for race strategy, nothing out of the ordinary. So the first thing I want to ask is, would you have liked them to have been maybe a little bit more aggressive to try and win the race? Because they literally just did a like for like of what Max did and what each other did. And I guess particularly for Lando, that's really of no use to him, is it?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think they should have been more aggressive. But at the same time, what followed and what happened during the race with the team struggling with the pit stop, and what followed that was so disappointing to see from McLaren when you look at it at first. Yeah.
So you don't think that they should have swapped the drivers back around then?
Well, at first I thought they shouldn't, but then I watched the race again because I was very focused on supporting Ferrari. I watched the race again, and Well, the time when McLaren pitted Piastri, they covered. I think they pitted him first,
To cover
and they
Leclerc.
shouldn't have. Yes, to cover Leclerc, and
Mm.
there was who was already on fresh tires, so it kind of didn't make sense. And they already had a big gap to Leclerc, so that was quite confusing to see from them.
I think in the team's defense, though, they did communicate with Lando about it, and I think it seems to be that their mentality is they give the leading driver their preference. So I think they said to Lando, "We're going to pit Oscar first. Is that all right with you?" And then Lando confirmed that, but then we didn't expect to happen what actually happened, did we? What did you make of all that?
Yeah, and I think when Norris finally pitted, the team has promised him he wouldn't be undercut. But because of the slow pit stop, Norris came out behind Piastri. So McLaren then ordered Piastri to give the place back, but they it's not for the pit stop error. They justified it that it's not for the pit stop error, that Norris would have stayed ahead anyways because he was already in the lead. So when actually rewatching the race, that actually made a lot of sense because he would have been first, and there was, I think, a 6-second gap between them.
Yeah, there was something like so. In my opinion, when I was watching it, I even thought it was a little bit out of order that they said let him pass and then you can race, because there was a good few seconds between them that I feel Lando would have maintained. I thought it was a pressure put on Lando that didn't exist before this issue with the front left tyre. What did you make of those? Because Toto Wolff has said that the team have now set a dangerous precedent. And then also Piastri, in responding on the radio, was like, oh, well, you know, that's a slow stop's not really a reason to give back the place. How can you see this playing out moving forwards? And where do you draw the line on some kind of failure or mistake of a team member before you go, oh, no, we can't keep swapping back?
I think from Norris's point of view, it was fair because they kept their promise. McLaren kept their promise, no undercutting. But then from Piastri's point of view, it was very frustrating. It must have been very frustrating because it's racing. It happens. So pit stops happen. But realistically, without the slow stop, he wouldn't have caught Norris. I believe he wouldn't have caught Norris. And we have a tricky situation going on there right now because we've got Piastri, who's leading the championship, which is incredible for a rookie, being a rookie last year, to leading the championship now with having Max Verstappen. And
it was the year before, so this is his third season.
Yes, a year before.
What did you make? You mentioned earlier, you made a little note saying that McLaren, that you said they have their two golden boys, and then you said actually maybe their golden boy. Who is that? What did you make of it, and why have you said that maybe there is a preference of one over the other?
Well, I don't know them personally, but watching Zach Brown very closely in the interviews, in the media, what he says, he's very much skewed towards Lando. And he even has a tattoo of Lando's first win. But that's not relevant, of course, to this conversation. But I believe that what we saw, it was fair from the perspective of the race and how it could have gone. But there is slight favoritism of Norris and McLaren now, and I'm very curious to see what's going to happen during their next race and who is going to win the championship this year.
Yeah, and then how does it play out if it is Oscar Piastri? Because then, let me ask you. So you're team boss, so you're either Andrea Stella or Zach Brown, and your champion next season is Oscar Piastri. Do you have to favour the world champion at the beginning of the season, or is it a level playing field once again for you?
I think the second option. Because it's a new season. A reset. A new season, a new start, fresh start. It's now, because they've got the same car. And it's all about their quality of driving and about their potential and their talent. And maybe some luck as well. And some red flags and yellow flags. But basically start from scratch. I wouldn't be calling. I think they won't be calling if Piastri wins. They won't be calling him the world champion and won't act differently towards him. Because
let me get your opinion on, again, it's just so great to hear, because you being based in the Southern Hemisphere, like the other side of the world, it's just so interesting to get different perspectives, particularly because there must be a lot of Oscar Piastri love down under.
Absolutely. We love Oscar.
Yeah. So I know that there'll be adulation for him. How are they playing it out with regards to how close the championship is? Because here, there seems to be a little undercurrent of, it's 34 points. It's going to be a huge ask for Lando. Sorry, 31 points, I believe it is now. Going to be a huge ask for Lando to turn it around. But Jamie Chadwick, who's one of the talents on the TV here in the UK, she said, hang on, that's one failure, one puncture, one incident. We know that Oscar's a great driver, but one little thing out of the ordinary, and then Lando's grab 25 points on Oscar if he has a retirement again. How's it playing out down under?
I think we're very much biased. And we really want Oscar to perform well, and we want to have our F1 champion to be Australian. But as I've spoken about during our last session about papaya rules and how they prioritize teamwork, and we've seen, we don't see it across other teams. Like at Red Bull, it's always Max and the other drivers are just supporting Max. With papaya, it's a team effort, team support. We see them asking either one or the other driver to let them go, to pass through, to be fair. It's not about one driver, it's about the team effort winning the championship, and it clearly worked last year. So for the fans, obviously we are more focused on the drivers and their personal wins and championships, but from a perspective of the team, McLaren's doing so well. They won the championship last year, and I'm pretty sure they're very close to winning this year. So it's all about team rules, but obviously we would love Piastri to win. He's got a great talent. He's we could see his performance, as you mentioned. He's been consistently performing well. It's not just this one instance that we saw at Monza.
Yeah, Ewan making a great point there and showing his knowledge. Alan Jones, the last Australian world champion, 1980, in the Williams as well. That was so way back when Frank Williams was running that team, and of course now it's a big team, Williams, but it's one of those that's got all that history within the world of Formula One, and I'm sure down under they'll all be putting their support behind Oscar Piastri. We've only got about just over 20 minutes left, so let's push it forward, Ola, and just talk a little bit about Mercedes, the Silver Arrows, George Russell. George, of course, and I've talked this with quite a few guests so far this season, this contract situation that exists, and it's a pivotal contract for George. It's probably going to be his biggest of his career. He's now coming into his peak. Why hasn't he signed on the dotted line yet? Or why wasn't he made the offer at the right time to sign on the dotted line? What have you made of how it's all panned out? Because, again, the point being that George is the only race winner this season outside of McLaren and Max, and that's a huge statement, isn't it?
Yes, and I personally think it's very unfair to George to not give him the contract, because he's been performing well. He's taken on the lead of the team as the lead driver at the moment. We've got such a young rookie who is very, very talented. Don't get me wrong. Antonelli is an absolute rock star, but he still has so much to learn. He's so young, even looking at his age, and he's doing such a great job. He's performing well, and not to get a contract, extended contract, but I don't know what's happening behind the scenes, but it could be George's decision, actually, because he's not complaining very openly about this. So his personal situation might be it might be the cause.
And so if he didn't stay at Mercedes, where could you see him racing moving forward? So I feel he's definitely a talent that would find a space again somewhere else in F1, isn't he?
Yeah, I think Alonso's career is coming to an end very quickly. And I think that Aston Martin is looking very closely at Russell. It's
Yeah, and
just a
they
feeling that
they
I
have a lot
got.
of blank checks at Aston Martin as well, don't they?
Exactly. And next year, I'm very curious to see their car and how
Mm,
their car is going to perform. So I could see Russell driving for Aston.
mm.
Isn't Aston Martin a British car brand?
Team? Yeah, yes, British car brand, yeah, and they're based at Silverstone here in the UK,
Yeah.
the race team.
Even yeah, even from the branding perspective and advertising, that would be a
Mm.
very good fit.
Partnership. I didn't even think of that. You're right, because George is like the quintessential British gentleman, isn't he? So
Yes,
completely right. Talking
but it's
about the
very
other side.
disappointing.
Talking
Sorry.
about the other side of Mercedes, Kimi Antonelli, give us an idea. What was the support for Kimi like at Monza? Because you mentioned there was red everywhere, but was
Yes.
there a presence for Kimi as well? Because I mean, we haven't had a competitive Italian driver for quite a while. We haven't had an Italian world champion since I think the 1950s, possibly.
Mm, yes, not really in the crowd. It was not visible. We could barely see any Mercedes merch in the crowd.
Mm,
Maybe more of Piastri, actually. There was a lot of McLaren fans
okay,
amongst Ferraris, but we did hear a lot of screams and claps while Kimi was driving. We also, I bet it was during Formula 2. There's also an Italian driver there, either Formula 2 or Formula 3.
right.
And we could hear the support of the fans. They very much knew that the drivers were Italian and they were clapping and cheering on. So it didn't matter that it was Mercedes.
Mm.
we,
And
we, we saw the support. Mhm.
what do you make of Kimi Antonelli's season so far? He started very well, of course, and then what's difficult when you start so well, there's only one direction to go,
Yeah.
and now the spotlight seems to be on him, don't they? And sorry if the pronunciation is wrong. Is it Gratian? It's just saying give this kid a while there in the chat box. But for you, Ola, is he the real deal? Does he need some time away from Mercedes? Is his future guaranteed at Mercedes with the current performance?
I think he is. This, as Toto said at the beginning of the season, they know that he's going to make mistakes, and they know that he's not going to be perfect. But they're investing in
Mm.
him. Sorry, a lot. And I think he's got a lot to learn still, but he's doing so well compared. Like, I still cannot get over the fact that he's so young. He just got his driver's license, and he's driving a Formula One car at such a level. I think he finished 10th and at Monza, didn't he? Or even higher on the grid? Wasn't
Yeah,
he
no, it was P9 in the end because he got a five
P9?
second penalty, which is again, so he had two penalties in the last race, another penalty in this race.
Mm.
Is that something you think will just be ironed out over time then with experience?
Yeah, I think so. And I also think there's a reason why George hasn't got his contract prolonged, and Kimi did.
No, Kimi hasn't been confirmed for next year yet. So
Really?
they
Because
at
I'm
the
pretty sure.
moment, from my understanding, they're both to the end of this season. I think
Mm.
no doubt that because they are both managed by Mercedes because they're part of the junior program. So even if they
Yes,
don't,
sorry, I
even if
got
they
that
don't
wrong.
end up racing for the AMG Petronas team, they will still be in the Mercedes family because Mercedes run very differently to some of the other teams. They look after their young drivers who are part of
Yes.
their alumni. But yeah, so it's at the moment, and I don't. Do you think that could even play into? I don't know the reason maybe George hasn't signed, or the reason that he wasn't initially offered because they're still looking at the whole performance of Kimi across the year.
Uh, could be. To be fair, I'm not really sure, but from my perspective, since I was following the start of the season and I watched Toto's interviews very closely,
Mm,
uh, they were very passionate about keeping Kimi on the team and training him to be the next Lewis.
mm.
He's got a perfect CV, and he's learning fast. He is performing like any other example of such young like you could see that having such young drivers is such a good investment. We can see what's happening with Piastri. He's almost a champion this season. So I think he is going to stay in Mercedes for a very long time, but I might be wrong. It's not my expertise. My expertise is in Ferrari.
Yeah, I love this point by Ewan that's been made in the chat box. Look, just saying that Fernando Alonso was racing in F1 before
That's
Antonelli was
crazy.
even born, and he's still going strong. Fernando, he didn't have the luck of the gods for this
Fernando.
race,
Oh,
did he? But you know,
the suspension. The
yeah.
suspension.
Yeah, we'll get into that in a little while. But before we get into Aston Martin, let's cover a few others. So first up, Williams. We'll start with Alex Albon, who had a very good race weekend. Qualifying didn't go that well for him, but he's now got his 11th points finish of the season. The most points in a Williams since Valtteri Bottas in 2016.
Mm-hmm.
It shows the impact that long-term investment is now having at Williams, doesn't it?
Yes, I'm actually so happy to see it because I as I told you, Sainz is still my favorite driver on the grid, personal. So I'm so happy to see Williams performing so well. I even saw this very heartbreaking and heartwarming moment at the end. If you saw the two Ferraris and then Sainz driving behind them, it was so touching to see that Williams is now growing. It's improving. And I think Albon and Sainz are a very good pairing. And we could see the results at the moment.
Carlos Sainz is going through a little bit of a rough patch, isn't he, though? I mean, he's got to turn it around. And again, it seems like he's just not having the luck of things at the moment. There was the collision with Ollie Behrman, which happened in this race. And
I think that was Behrman's fault, wasn't
it? Yeah. Behrman got a penalty during the race and has got another 2 penalty points. And he's coming very close to a race ban. Ollie Behrman, if he doesn't watch it. But Carlos Sainz, are you confident then for the rest of this season that he can turn it around? Because I guess there's that thing of the first person you've got to beat is your teammate. And at the moment, the gap between them, well, Alex Albon's on 70 points. Carlos Sainz only has 16.
I think it's just very, very bad luck for Carlos. We saw this weekend. It was very, very bad luck. But I think, I see the comment by Evan. He's just having a very bad season. I think it's the depression post Ferrari. I reckon that would make him happy that Ferrari is not performing that well, and it would give him more motivation. But maybe it's a difficult switch from being such a good team and then going to technically last year the worst team on a grid. So I think he needs a bit of a time and adjustment to this situation. It's like a reverse for Lewis with Lewis. Lewis got upgraded and he got downgraded so much.
But very similarly as well, coming into a new team, getting used to a new way of working. Even so, for me, Carlos made a really good point at the beginning of the season, saying even the feel of the engine and the power through your right foot on the throttle just feels different, the way the engine works. And, you know, after years with a team, you just becomes organic and like an extension of you. You've got to relearn all of that again. But you still have faith that Carlos Sainz is going to come good at Williams.
Yes, he's an excellent driver. And I think next year they're going to do really, really well. But when you were mentioning the feel of the car, now I got an idea that I would actually love to see Verstappen in a Ferrari. I bet he would not be even in a first 10 spot during his first race.
That's so interesting. Because, again, that's so interesting because here in the UK, and I know the narrative gets led by media to a certain extent. Everyone thinks that Red Bull is a terrible car to drive, and it's just the fact that Max is like a once-in-a-generation talent that he's actually pulling it through. But you think it wouldn't be Max in any car performing like that?
Well, we see Hamilton has so much experience, even more than Max. He's won 7 world championships.
Yeah, but Lewis is 40 now, and you can't. The one thing that you can't battle is age. Right, it gets you eventually. Whereas Max is, I don't know how old Max is.
24, 25, I think, 26.
No, he's older than that. Let's do a quick Google. Max might be up at 28, 29 possibly.
I think 98 or 97.
He's 30.
Is he?
30 years old, Max Verstappen. Yeah, but he's been
Age
around
is just
forever.
a number. Let's look at Alonso. He's doing very well still.
Yeah. Okay. Well, in that case, Lewis has no excuses, right?
Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one. You caught me there. You caught me there.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, so well, we've got about 10 minutes left and quite a few teams to go through, but we'll just touch on them and just get your opinions, Ola. And more than anything, it's just about, like, if we remember how we talked in pre-season, we don't even have to go into these teams in depth, but we can talk about what our expectations were at the beginning of the year and how they're doing in comparison to that. And the first one we got to touch on is Kickstake Sauber, right? Everyone thought that these guys would be bringing up the back of the grid at the bottom, but they have done something special there. We may have talked about previously that Matteo Binotto has gone in there. And so it seems like whatever he's doing, and the likes of Jonathan Wheatley, the team principal, who was formerly at Red Bull, and Sauber is sitting 8th in the championship, 55 points, which I think is probably about 50 more than people thought they'd get for the whole of the season.
It's crazy.
What have you made of them? And more than anything, the young man Bortoletto, who really seems to be coming good now and outperforming his much more experienced teammate.
Oh, Bortoletto is flying. I don't know what that kid is doing and what are they training him on, but he's flying, and having such an experienced driver as Hulkenberg by his side, I think that helps him a lot. I think it seems like they're having a really good relationship and they're getting along really well, which is good to see. And I think that could have some impact on their results and team as a whole. I think the first time I think it was the second race of the season that they performed really well. Was it the first? No, it was.
I cannot remember.
Yeah, me neither. But there was one moment at point of the season where maybe it was Hulkenberg's podium.
Let's take a look. Yeah, so Hulk. No, you're right. First race of the season, the Hulk come P7. So
yes.
it was very dramatic, wasn't it, in Australia? But he managed to hold it down and keep it together.
Yes, and I think that gave the team a lot of hope. Even if you see their pit stops, like you see them so eager, like so professional.
Yeah, you are making a really good point as well, how good it is for the sport to have a South American driver performing well. There's another one in the shape of Franco Colapinto who's not doing so well. Excuse me. Whoa, there's a little bit of, I think that's a winter cold coming. As the cold starts to come in here in the UK, summer is officially over. We don't get a very long one, but it could be on its way. But yeah, the young man Bortoletto, I think as well, we got to remember he's keeping very good company in the shape of Fernando Alonso as his manager. He's in Max Verstappen's Stim team as well, and him and Max are really good friends. I mean, you couldn't ask for better mentors than those two drivers, could you?
Yeah, I agree. Absolutely. It's just really good mentorship and good training, I believe he's receiving, and he's doing a lot of work to get where he wants to be. I think he's hungry for a better team. And I think he's trying to prove himself this season.
Well, of course, he's doing very well at Sauber. And another rookie who's doing very well this year is Isaac Hadjar.
Oh, Hadjar.
So between the two of them, who is your rookie of the year?
I think Hadjar. He's had such a rough start of his career at Formula One. We've seen that very famous pat of Hamilton's father on his shoulder. Like to recover from that, from such a I must assume mentally breaking experience, to be in the spotlight so much and to perform so well. I'm not sure if it was pure skill or it was just a lot of luck during their last race, but he just got his confidence in Monza now. During the race.
Right. In Hadjar's defense, though, the last race where he did get the podium, he held off your man Charles Leclerc and George Russell for his fourth spot. Now, yes, Lando retired from the race, but I think Hadjar had a very good race. And like you said, very solid season as well. Did you expect this from him after the beginning of the season? I don't feel that there was a lot of noise made about him with his career in F2. I don't think he'd won any championships in the whole of his junior career. When he put his car in the wall in the formation lap of Australia. If I'd have
Yeah.
told you how he's performed up to now, would you have believed me?
No, I wouldn't have. And yeah, that's why I'm so, like admiring his dedication so much, and the fact that he didn't give up. I'm pretty sure there was a lot of help behind the scenes to
Yeah.
help him recover from that, and a lot of talks and maybe a therapist. But I think it's great. I love him thriving, and he's become like sort of a meme in the community, and it's just like everyone's so happy for him.
Yeah, he's very fun, isn't he? And I mean,
Very
it's
fun.
important for us to have big characters like that in F1 as well. Other side of this garage, Liam Lawson. So again, what have you made of him now a bit later in the season? We know he only got 2 races at Red Bull, and there was a lot of pressure on the young man. For you, it wasn't the greatest race this race weekend, but he's got 4 points finishes in the last 9 races. How do you think his future looks in Formula One now?
Well, I was never a fan of him, unfortunately, because of his attitude and a specific style of driving.
You've got very serious here, I can tell.
Yes, I remember. Yes, I remember what I said last, and it's just. Well, I wish him well, but overall, being in Red Bull is a mental struggle by itself. Like those drivers have to go through a lot of changes of seats. They're probably really scared of losing the seat all the time, and they've done so much work to get to Formula One, and now they're in a team that's so inconsistent with their drivers. They're not putting enough effort into their drivers, because they just think it's better to have a replacement than training another driver. So I think it's going to be a tough end of the season for him, and he's going to try to show that he's worth, and he can perform well. But it is going to be tough.
Yeah, you're not too sure, I can tell. Let's just push it
Yeah,
forward then and talk about a team that I guess you could say they're part of the Ferrari family in a sense that they are customers of Ferrari for the power unit. And they've got the young Ferrari driver in the shape of Ollie Behrman. What have you made of Ollie Behrman's season? And like I said earlier, he's now got this little thing hanging behind him that he's only 1 incident away, really, from a race ban after the incident with Sainz in this race.
I think Haas is not going to be happy about him giving the ban, because who's their replacement?
Yeah.
I don't recall. I don't even recall if they have a replacement. They must have a replacement.
Yeah. It might be one of the other young Ferrari drivers.
It could be.
Yeah.
But overall, I think his performance has been consistent, as has his performance, which has been very poor.
Yeah. When I look at the championship table, though, so Behrman is. I'm not going to include Colapinto or Doohan because they have both been doomed with that Alpine to a certain extent. But of the other rookies, Behrman is bottom of their little table now. Would you have expected that? Because I think there was quite a bit of hype around him, wasn't there, after his performances in the Ferrari and the Haas last season?
Yes, he was compared to Antonelli a lot, as I remember, and it was between the two of them. He performed perfectly well in a Ferrari, but I think the fact that he's driving in a Haas, and we know that that's the team that struggles a lot, and Gunter leaving the team, and now they're probably still figuring out their internal structures. I think I'm very proud of him for being in Formula One, but I don't see much improvement going on for him if he doesn't change teams.
Let's change teams ourselves and just talk a little bit about the French outfit Alpine. It's been a difficult season for them. We know there's a lot of change behind the scenes. The one bit of good news this week, though, Pierre Gasly has signed a new contract until 2028.
They're dedicated.
Well, yeah. What do we make of that? What do you think Pierre knows?
I don't know.
I mean, what we know is that they've got the Mercedes power unit next year. And you were talking about the performance of that Mercedes, the works team. So maybe Pierre knows something about that. But Gasly, again, this is a big contract for Gasly and probably his last big one. So it's a good show of faith for the team that he's sticking with them. He's secured all of their points. And I think the record is he's got the most single points for a team that's bottom of the championship, which they find themselves by 24 points. So
yes, but to be fair, when I heard the news of him signing the contract, I kind of felt that it is because there's no other room for him. And he just wanted to guarantee himself the seat for the next few seasons. Because now we know the other team is joining next year. Is it next year that
next year,
Cadillac is joining?
Yep. Okay, very good point. Yeah, very good point. You're looking and saying, okay, so where is there space for Pierre Gasly on the grid? Yeah, I mean, I don't think Mercedes would look at him. Red Bull.
No, and he's got a reputation of a very feisty performances, race interview performances. So he's a very specific driver. So yes, I would love to believe that he knows something that's going to happen. The Mercedes power unit is going to be great, but also I think there's no other room for him in the grid.
Franco Colapinto on the other side of that team. How do you see his future? He's 10 races in now, no points. Has really struggled in that car.
I feel about his future exactly as I felt during Ferrari's performance in Monza. Devastating.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. That answers it all. And maybe there will only be one South American driver. No, sorry, because because Mexico is considered more Central or North America, isn't it?
Central America.
I was going to say we got Perez back, next season, but the Americas, we will say. So one less driver from the Americas, perhaps, on the grid next season. Finally, just Aston Martin. It wasn't a great race weekend for them. Real bad bit of luck for Fernando Alonso. Or the one question I guess I'll ask you, Ola, do you think it was bad luck? Is Alonso going to be more upset with himself or the team?
I think with the team.
Because
it was the suspension failure. And I believe they did have some issues during qualifying as well. Not qualifying, but during practices.
That curb was big. Did you see? If you've not seen, the curb was... He took a lot of curb, and you saw it go wobble through the car. And he was definitely wider than the usual racing line, shall we say. I
saw it personally. I heard the noise because we did hear the curb because they make such a funny noise as a tractor when they go on a curb. And people did turn their heads around to see what happened. And
I mean, but I guess like any driver, it's never my fault.
Yes, sorry. I just really like Alonso. I like to believe that it was a team's failure.
Yeah, no problem at all. Well, listen, Ola, we've made it through the grid. We've made it through the performance of Monza, and it's been absolutely fantastic to have you on once again. The last just little thing I want to ask you, of course, the next race, we've got a free weekend, and then we're in Baku. So it's a street circuit where attention to detail and real driving craft is going to come into play. Let me ask you the big one, really. What kind of role is Baku going to play in this Drivers' Championship, do you think?
I think it's going to have so much, what's the right word? Significance.
Influence, impact, or significance.
Significance. We're going to see, because it's like they only have 8 races left. And the points are very tight. I just looked at the points. There's like 30-point difference, 20-something point difference. So I think a lot of drivers will be extremely, extremely focused to perform well. But I think because it's a street circuit and it requires so much precision, I think Max is going to restart his dominance, and I think he now believes he can go for the win, and he loves the challenge. We know that he loves to win, so I think we're gonna see more of his anthem being sung after the races, even though it upsets me a lot.
Okay, I mean, a lot of F1 fans are enjoying it, including myself, because I don't want one team to be too dominant. And lastly, who's your world champion for this year? without being Australian biased?
Well, I can't be. I immediately wanted to say Oscar, but I'll stay true to Ferrari, and I will say Leclerc.
No, hang on. Leclerc's not going to win it this season, though, is he?
I know.
Yeah,
But
we can dream, but I mean, so Oscar Piastri for you,
yes,
2025 world champion.
yes.
Great stuff. Well, listen, Ola, it's been an absolute pleasure to catch up with you once again. Thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show as well, because I know you've had very little sleep and a hell of a lot of excitement during race weekend in Monza. But it's been really great to get your insight and not just hear about your perspective on stuff on the track, but also everything that happened in and around the circuit, because you've lived out, kind of like a bucket list moment for many people, and I'm sure maybe some of them will hear what you had to say and will be thinking, I've got to get myself there. So it's been a great insight, and thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me so much. And as I said at the start, if you're a Ferrari fan, this will honestly change your life if you go to Monza and see all that madness in person. So thank you so much for having me and for allowing me to share my passion and excitement with the fans.
No problem at all. And for you guys out there, thank you for joining us live on the show, or whether you're watching back on playback. Thank you for your support. Don't forget to like and share all of our content, because it really helps it spread far and wide. And follow Ola Zakowska. You can see her handle there on the screen. So follow her across the socials. She does some great content, F1 and more. She shows off to us here at Europe, and we'll be doing, I guess, for the rest of the year as we hit the cold, and she will be enjoying the beach a hell of a lot. But go and follow Ola across the socials, guys, and we'll see you very soon, just a couple of weeks' time, for the race in Baku. Until then, take care, Formula One fans.
See you. Thank you.